The medium and myself smoke two different brands of air. I like to exhale his before I draw mine own. Good evening unto each one. It would appear at the onset rather strange that I, of all people, should be the one selected to deliver this particular message, in that it hath everything to do with change, the unexpected, the uncontrolled, and here being delivered by, well, one such as I, a product of a culture that I suppose, if anything, might be considered the most controlled and, traditional, conservative and all that. But I say that it partakes of the message itself. You can't believe what you hear. You can't believe what you see. And certainly don't believe in history, whatever you do. Let it all go, beloved. Let it all go. You've all seen those women who, as they do their laundry in the so-called third world countries, they generally will do so at the river's edge, beating the clothes, upon the rock, skillfully, mind you. And all that is soot and the so-called grime is carried downstream. They walk about after that with nice, clean clothing. This is the essence of the message. You've all heard this thing called the Age of Aquarius. Well, so have I. But I've heard it from different lips than you. And it is that I've sat at the feet of many Elijahs, that I am selected to come this eve and share with you only some of these insights. Beloved friends of the ages, I don't see one here present, I'm referring to those physical, who is not a prime candidate for the very thing that we should be discussing this evening. And that is this, that each and every one of you will be called upon to rise up in the interest of truth and say, I don't know that I accept that. And mind you, when what is just being propounded is the very essence of tradition, oh, but everybody knows that, they'll say. Oh, really? Does everybody really know that, or has everyone simply been told that? Must be your reply at that moment. Beloved, rule breakers, each one, please break more rules. Why? In the interest of chaos? No, of course not. How can that comfort a child? But if the rules that you break, or appear to break, I should rather say transcend, are the very rules that will bring pain to that child, then I say break them, and break them straight away. Break every rule. Break every tradition. And please don't believe that simply because you've held a belief in your lovely head for 20 odd years that somehow that guarantees its truth. Dear ones, you've got small knowledge of what awaits you on the morrow. We enter Aquarius. What is it? I say it's an age of freedom. And to quote an old friend, and I'm referring, of course, to my old friend, not necessarily everyone's here, Mr. Jaidu Krishnamurti, I'll say that it would be good to seek freedom from the known, that you might know yourself. And that becomes the message, isn't it? Know yourself. You need little else. Know yourselves. Know yourself with a capital S. Know who you are, and what else is necessary, really. We become to a point in the affairs of humanity, and mind you, this has occurred before, where all shall come to find that the most treasured truths, frankly, have got holes in them. They don't hold water, at least not the water of life, not the waters of Conan. I want you all to know, dear ones, that you will best be prepared for what awaits you by being open-minded in the extreme. By not saying, oh, but isn't dot, 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 you know, and quote some old tome, some old reference, some old law, some old rule, some old teacher, some old anybody. I come not to disrespect. On the contrary, I come to respect truth. And if you do respect truth as I do, then you are willing to look at anything and anyone to see how much of that thing they might or may contain. And you're not afraid to see the lack of it. Dear ones, it shall be the love in your hearts, and that alone, that shall be the light that shall guide you forward through the lands of untruth, half-truth, and what we would call non-truth, unto the truth that is, well, basically love. Anything less than that isn't true, is it? How can it be? You are all part of a grand and lovely design, precisely why you happen to be in your flesh, that each one of you might speak out, not against each other, for that shall rarely be necessary, but against mass ignorance in the form of the individual who confronts you. And to come to know that those that speak truth shall have more power than those that don't, or than those that but parrot what someone else has said, and someone else has said, and someone else has said. Good grief. What boredom. What tedious boredom. Oh, but so-and-so said. Oh, really? How do you even know they said it? Were you there? Maybe you even weren't. So add that to your list of, shall we say, liabilities. I should not want my home built on such shifting sands. Dear ones, I suggest a new curriculum, and it is this. Arise in the mornings, when you do arise, with a strong commitment, and it should be this, that you try your very best to live, of course, in the moment, constantly in the moment, doing what must be done, of course, but resisting, I would say, any temptation to fall back on some old rule, some old condition, some old anything. Oh, please. If Aquarius is anything, it is new, from morning until night. So please, won't you be new as well? And can I convince you to forget everything you know? If so, I shall be the most skillful, lawyer of all. You may not know this, for I don't believe the medium's been so bold as to tell you. But at the onset of his own training, whilst we were yet becoming acquainted, we took him a few places, physically, that is, guided him, go here, go there, and we pointed out this one and that one, and said, what do you see? And he would say what he saw, and then we would say, well, this is what we see. Then, of course, the discrepancies generally shocked him. But soon he came to see our point of view, not because we are superior, not because we are somehow, shall we say, those that rule, and, you must agree, but rather because he is of that nature to know truth when he tends to hit it. As are you all. I tell you this, if you but look carefully at your so-called problems, and I'm referring to the most serious of your problems, you might find that they've come about based on things you've accepted that you did not know. You accepted someone's word, not your own necessarily, save that you might have felt inclined to accept, and so you did. Now you're in trouble. I laugh not at your quandaries, dears. I rather laugh at how easily they can be lifted from you. Start anew. All right, so you claim to have a problem. What is it? Well, whatever it is, God knows you got the wits to see through it. Won't you use them? But you see, what stops you very often is, but, you're ready to quote me something from the past. I'm not interested, frankly. Oh, yes. For some, even seated here, this can constitute a major challenge. You might say, who is this heretic? Comes preaching a gospel of rebellion. Nay. Rebellion against what? Rebellion not at all. How can one rebel against a shadow? Against a cloud? Against a lie? I say to you, dear ones, I invite you, I invoke you to attempt at least, won't you, to be true Aquarians in the spirit of the great and holy Master of the violet flame, who, by the by, is behind this lovely message, wouldn't you know it? My privilege but to deliver it, which is precisely why I said, oh, but Lord, why me? And he said, you are the perfect one. And he said, I must practice what I preach, mustn't I? And I realized, yes, indeed. I was indeed the most incompatible, based on culture and background alone. And he said, isn't that the past? Well, what is the message about? Let it go, let it go, let it go. Now, I am not referring to letting go of love. I am not referring, certainly, to letting go of any affection. I am but asking that you consider letting go of the rules that you have lived by. Why? Because, for all you know, starting at midnight tonight, they are null and void. How do you know? How do you know they were ever valid to begin with? Save that someone told you, you believed it. You know, rule number 5 says I got to do this. Well, fine. Why ever did the good Lord give you a brain in your head if you were not to exercise it fully, but instead but to quote what another has said? Dear ones, again I say, again, look to your most serious problem, and I tell you the answer is before you, but it may not be found couched in the house of your past beliefs. Indeed, I'll go further and say it isn't. I'll guarantee you that. So, arouse yourselves, won't you? Awaken, arise, and come to see a new heaven and a new earth, truly. That you can only serve the God of truth if you are willing to be so-called rule breakers. What are these rules if not man's gropings, man's attempt to understand and to explain? I'm not speaking of malice, at least not in most cases, but I am referring to those that in their own finite concepts did say, oh, well, look here, in that the rest can't seem to grasp the big picture, let's just break it down for them, shall we? And we'll give them rules to live by. 1, 2, 3. And then these become the rules, and then people live by them. Unfortunately, it short-circuits intuition. Live as the wren, as the sparrow, as the dove. What rules do they live by? And again, I say, for those of you who have an uncomfortable feeling about the things I'm speaking, well, perhaps there's something there for you to consider. Now, granted, you are all of you capable of accepting this outrageous thing I bring, but what of your loved ones? What of your family? Your closest, your so-called nearest and dearest, what are they? You can't expect them to do the same, can you? Chances are they won't. Unless and until they can see you being more successful than they, in that you live how you live and they live how they live. Try it, that's all we ask. Aquarius is anything that you're not expecting. Everything contrary to the way you thought for certain it would be. Oh, dear ones, we but began this magnificent storm of change. Believe me, when those lightning bolts strike out of the hands of Zeus, you will see such changes in yourselves and in those that you think you know, that at one point you'll finally do what, well, I'm giving you the chance to do now easily. Just surrender, won't you? You can't fight it, really. What's that old saying? You can't beat them, then join them. There is truth to that at times, certainly not absolutely. Now, let us progress to yet another topic, and it is this. I dare say that there's not one of you here who's got the money that you need. Neither shall you have it until you learn to do what he or she does who seriously wants to learn the fine art of playing the violin. What do they do? Do they not practice daily, hours at a time, beloved? What if he or she wants to be a fine athlete? Do they think of it once in a while? Do they chance to try their craft? You know, perhaps, what's that, last month I think I gave it a whack. What makes you think that if those must practice daily, or just about really, that you are somehow exempt simply because what you're attempting to do is of a more mental nature? You see, somehow you have deluded yourself, I'm afraid. If you want something, there's a way to get it. Nothing is denied you. But we see many of you sitting about waiting in vain. And the dark clouds growing darker. And you go, oh, one of these days, you know, this will come along. I hope, I hope. Next thing you know, you can't hope. You're gone with the storm. Don't let it happen. Count that day as lost, that you do not project out of your magnificent minds a clear picture of at least one thing that you should love to see contributed to your own life and experience. We would say that the process of so-called creative visualization is vastly underrated, and yet even more vastly under-practiced. Again, you see those that want to produce concrete results in other areas working diligently. Oh, they might take a day or two off, for no one expects anyone to work 7 days a week. Perhaps that would be a bit much, but at least 5, perhaps 4. Point being, you got to do it. 2 plus 2 will ever equal 4. So again, we find that you are all of you thinking that this and that might come, that it should come, that Jehovah shall come, instead of seeing to it that it shall come upon the morrow. Emphasis on the word seeing. And so, allow me to invite you now, this moment, right this moment. Now I'm going to take you in an area that you really don't expect, true to what we're here speaking. Won't you see that something that you truly would love to see occurring, temporarily now, not occurring simply because you didn't draw it in? Look at the dire consequences. Now, some of you might say, well, wait now, is that really wise? One should not visualize what one does not want. And yet that's precisely what you're doing. I'm just bringing it to a head. Do you understand? I'm but saying, this is what you shall be looking at 2 months, 3, 6 down the road, slowly, by attrition. Why not just do it now? You want some bad news? I'll give you some. So you see, beloveds, I come not to mock. I love you too much for that. But I say that until and unless you get it in your lovely heads, that you've got to practice, 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 to bring in the kingdom of heaven, then you can't be really listened to when you complain that it isn't present. Only he or she who hath done the work and complain and cry out it's sacrilege, or they are not paid. Else you but scream in vain, the boy that cried wolf. Some of you have an aversion to what are called drugs. Oh my, look at those orders. Pop, pop, pop. Obviously, I trust you'll link to it. I'm about to challenge you. Why should you? When a drug is but an inert subject, an inert object. What is a drug? It's a substance generally, isn't it? Sits there on the shelf or in your box or whatever you like. Doesn't do a thing, does it? What are its desires? To take you to hell? No. What does it really do? It just, if I might borrow from a colloquialism, it just bees. It just is. And yet look at the reaction. Drugs, oh my, well. Red lights are flashing, many things. And you would be quick to say, oh, but I've seen lives, torn asunder due to drugs. I correct you. I beg to differ. Nay, again I say nay. You've seen nothing of the sort. You have seen a soul that was not adept in overcoming self-chosen, self-elected challenges, who might have reached out to anything. If they happen to be drugs, so be it. If they happen to be thievery, so be it. If it happen to be deception, so be it. Anything. And you're very quick, based on what you've been hypnotized to believe, that the drugs were the problem. I poke a hole in your reasoning. Drugs just sit there, really. Don't do a thing. I rather feel sorry for them, and that so many seem to like to speak of the war. They're actually waging a war on these poor things. They just sit about, don't do a thing. Do you see, my dears, do you see here? I am not here to promote the use of morphine. I am not here to say that you should ingest cocaine, as somebody I know did, Mr. Sherlock Holmes. I am not here to say that you should smoke endless cigarettes of marijuana. No. I am not here to say you should drink quarts and quarts of whiskey. Certainly not. But the only reason I would not say these things is that they would be an infringement of your free will. Not because there's any inherent evil in any of these things. Cleanse your beliefs, my dears, for you hold, I believe, false spoils. This whole so-called war on drugs shall soon be exposed for what it is. And you know what it is? It is the attempt by those who control power and money on your planet to shield the fact that they have stacked the deck heavily in their own direction. That the average person has little or any chance of really winning anything or get it very much. And so, of course, in their despair, they're likely to reach out for anything. And oh, how interesting the drugs are available. Well, 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 I wonder who put them there. Oh, drugs, all terrible, you know, you're terrible for taking them. Again, my dears, you see what I'm saying. I'm not here to condone anything, but I'm certainly not here to condemn anything. And I'm certainly not here to tell you that your belief that drugs are evil is grounded in truth or fact. I'm here to expose the fact that they have been used as a scapegoat to cover up the fact that those powers that be like to keep the world the way it is, with most people not in a place that they can truly advance, at least not in any grand fashion, financially speaking. It's quite clearly and cleverly rigged, really. And so they set it up in this way, and knowing good and well, especially that the youth, in their frustration, when they come to find this out, will suddenly feel disappointed, discouraged, and what an interesting coincidence that there should just happen to be some drugs about that they can take instead. And then we can all talk about the evil of drugs, eh? The war on drugs. Well, well, well. You see, my dears, you see. And I but picked drugs arbitrarily. That's the D in the alphabet. I'm afraid I've got neither time nor leisure to go from A to Z, but I could. The point being, think for yourselves. Disabuse yourselves of your beliefs, especially about anything at all that you think is evil, bad. Chances are it isn't. Chances are someone gains in having you believe that, though, and you're just a little too cooperative, I'm afraid. Oh, my beloved. Do you know how much we admire you? That you've all had the... Oh, don't say it. Look here. Someone from the back room says, foolhardiness, they call that. Of course not. No, no, nay, I say. No, the courage to be in your flesh at a time when the illusions would be so rampant. We come to the end of that thing called Pisces, aren't we? Well, don't you believe, and haven't most of you witnessed, that the end of a party is generally far more good testimony of what that party was like in the beginning? Well, the end of the age is upon you. Behold, lies, deceptions, smokescreens, thinly veiled attempts to control masses, all due to evolution. We are all of us evolving. And so as we evolve, we come to bump into what works and then again what doesn't. It's called growth, my dears, trial and error. Well, God bless you all for being so brave as to choose this tricky moment in so-called history. And I'll bite a hole in that word yet. To be alive as you are. These be our thoughts, not mine alone, our thoughts on these matters. Now, it's one thing to hear words, it's another to think you understand them, it's another to understand them, and yet it's a fourth to try and actually implement them in your own lives. I leave it all for you as you will. As I've said, when the morrow begins, it is up to each one of you to think on these things and do accordingly. Can't you trust that whatever heart you have is sufficient to get you through the day without relying on someone else's teachings? Aquarius is a sign that delights in individuality, uniqueness, the one who breaks from the pack and says, wait a minute, I think I've got a lovelier way to go than the lot over there. Why should I hold to them? Mayhaps I'll find other lovely beings like myself, who, like myself, are free thinkers and free lovers. Mayhaps I'll be happier than ever. Mayhaps you are right, dear soul. These thoughts, these words, sent to you from a purple fiery heart, which even now grows yet brighter. For these words, this message, this thought form released here now, as never before, hath the power to dissolve much that hath stood in the way of true progress of the Spirit. Though your own earthly ears appear to have heard these words, these sounds, these tones, translating them in your brains into significances, I tell you, dear ones, that what you have been privileged to be a part of is the release of a wave, a joyous, wonderful wave. And even I surf that wave, even I. And together with you, we enjoy how it takes us forward to a lovely new life. Sounds, words, what are they? I leave you that you might ponder the mystery. The teacher teacheth, and the disciple learneth, so ever be it. Not I, but the true teacher of us all. And so, dear ones, we come to the end. Oh, it's at the beginning. I've got to change it, you know. How else can I function, really? Constantly seeking opposites without being contrary. Constantly seeking the new whilst yet aware of the old. Constantly seeking truth whilst yet wading through what appears to be untruth. I am done with polarities. And so are you. May the evening then come to a close. Each to your resting place, I would suggest, if you don't mind. That's simply because this campaign, if you will, is about to shift into high gear, and I should not want you to miss the fireworks that are not going to be visible physically. So see if you can't find yourselves free of your lovely little restraining physical bodies within the next few, and together we'll continue on this lovely campaign. My love for you is boundless. But how do you know that? Don't believe me. Believe your heart, and only if your heart confirms it. Know that what I say is what I say. So be it, so be it, so be it. Amen. Selah. Aloha. The rainbow reaches from east to west. Soon my son will be with you. He is not perfect. Don't expect that. He does not expect perfection in you. In fact, he expects nothing from you. He knows better. But if you would soar into the great, great light, then know this, that when he comes and then when he goes, a door is open for you to go into the past. You have heard the words of the Englishman. He has spoken with truth. But there will come a time you will have to go back and collect the acorns you passed by. You will have to go back into your past and weed out all the things you believed that you simply were told. I have told you, I never believed in the white man's paper. He put this paper in front of us and said, this will do this and this will do that. And I looked at him and laughed. I laugh still. Paper does nothing. Only hearts working together accomplish anything. You have seen, and I have seen, the white man getting choked in his own paper. Sign this, he said, and all will be well. He says it still. But you know, I have some good news for you. Soon there will be no white men. You know why? Because what you call white men will soon be eliminated as the earth outgrows them. You will continue, they will not. Spices that do not make the food savory are thrown out. And the Great Spirit is the greatest cook of all. When I say no white men, I am not referring to color of skin, but to those that think they are better than others. In whatever skin they find themselves, they think they are white and others are darker. Soon, there will be no more white men, and you will all be rainbows, all rainbows. As I have said, the rainbow lives on. So be it. And now, we all go into the Great Spirit, where we are awaited, color by color. Aho.